So, let's talk about China. Not just the China you see in glossy travel magazines or the one that pops up in economic headlines, but the real, living, breathing country that's changing faster than almost anywhere else on Earth. This is the country that builds entire cities in the time it takes most of us to decide what to watch on Netflix. Skyscrapers seem to sprout overnight and neighborhoods transform before your eyes. The pace is dizzying, almost surreal, as if the country is in a constant race against the clock. And let's not forget the trains. China's bullet trains don't just connect cities, they connect dreams. They zip across the countryside at speeds that make American trains look like they're powered by hamsters on a wheel. It's a symbol of progress, of ambition, and of a nation determined to leave the past behind. For decades, the story has been the same. China is rising, an unstoppable economic machine. Factories hum day and night, financial districts pulse with energy, and the world watches in awe as the country's GDP climbs higher and higher. The numbers are staggering. Hundreds of millions have been lifted out of poverty, a feat so massive it's often called an economic miracle. Families who once lived in rural villages now celebrate in gleaming high-rise apartments, their lives transformed within a single generation. But behind those shiny skyscrapers and glossy statistics, things are getting a little weird. The contrast between old and new, rich and poor, is sharper than ever. For every luxury mall, there's a crumbling alleyway just around the corner. The official story is one of harmony and prosperity, broadcast on state TV and splashed across billboards. But the unofficial story, the one whispered in crowded markets and quiet homes, is far more complicated. When you grow this fast, you get serious growing pains. And China's are starting to look less like simple aches and more like a full-blown identity crisis. Young people feel the pressure to succeed in a hyper-competitive society, while older generations struggle to keep up with the pace of change. China now boasts more billionaires than the US, with luxury cars and designer brands on display in every major city. Yet millions still live on just a few dollars a day, and the gap between rich and poor is growing wider. It's a country of contradictions, where cutting-edge technology and innovation exist side by side with strict controls and limited freedoms. Facial recognition cameras watch over bustling streets, and every online move is tracked, creating a sense of both progress and unease. But the real drama isn't just in the headlines or the statistics. It's in the everyday lives of 1.4 billion people, each with their own hopes, fears, and dreams. It's in the crowded subways, the busy markets, and the quiet moments at home. It's about young people who were sold a dream of endless opportunity, only to find themselves facing fierce competition and rising costs. It's about families still dealing with the legacy of past policies, and a society that's constantly redefining what it means to be Chinese in the modern world. So in this series, we're going to look past the highlight reel. We'll dig into the behind-the-scenes drama, the real stories, the real struggles, and the real triumphs that don't always make the news. Because the story of China today isn't just about a rising dragon. It's about a dragon that's powerful, ambitious, and awe-inspiring, but also tangled in its own tail, wrestling with its past, its future, and its place in the world. And that's a story worth peeking behind the curtain to see. For 4 remarkable decades, China's economy was the party everyone wanted to be at, a dazzling spectacle of growth, ambition, and transformation. The world watched in awe as cities like Shanghai and Shenzhen rose from sleepy towns to global metropolises, their skylines glittering with promise. People flocked to urban centers, chasing dreams of prosperity and a better life. Double-digit growth became the norm, year after year. Factories didn't just churn out goods for China. They became the world's workshop, producing everything from smartphones to sneakers, fueling a global consumer boom. Millions were lifted out of poverty, and the country's economic miracle seemed unstoppable. The government promised prosperity in exchange for obedience, and for a while that bargain delivered. People accepted limits on speech and freedom, trusting that the future would be brighter for themselves and their children. National pride soared as China's influence grew on the world stage. But now the economic engine that powered this rise is sputtering. The once booming property market is shaky, with empty apartment blocks and unfinished projects haunting the landscape. The old model of growth is running out of steam. The deal doesn't look so great anymore. Ordinary people are starting to question whether the sacrifices were worth it. Anxiety is spreading as families worry about jobs, savings, and the future. The economic slowdown is creating new social tensions. Frustrations that once simmered quietly are now bubbling to the surface as people feel the pinch of rising costs and shrinking opportunities. The promise of upward mobility, the idea that each generation would do better than the last, is losing its stick. Young people, once optimistic, now face a job market that feels stacked against them. Many are realizing the game might be rigged. This isn't just an economic problem, it's a crisis of faith in the system itself. People are questioning not just their prospects, but the very foundations of the social contract that held the country together. In a democracy, you can protest, organize, and demand change. In China, your options are far more limited. Dissent is risky, and the boundaries of what's allowed are tightly controlled. Frustration simmers under the surface, and the government is nervous. They know that discontent, if left unchecked, can become dangerous. Surveillance is everywhere, and the authorities are on high alert. Now, leaders are trying to manage a slow-motion, controlled demolition, not just of old buildings, but of expectations. They're carefully dismantling the promises of the past, hoping to avoid chaos while searching for a new path forward. It's one of the hardest things any government can do, to ask people to accept less after years of being promised more. The world is watching to see if China can pull it off, or if the party's truly over. Inequality is everywhere, woven into the fabric of every society on Earth. But in China, the divide between rich and poor is especially stark, almost impossible to ignore. It's a contrast that plays out not just in statistics, but in the daily lives of over 1 billion people. In the heart of China's booming cities, you'll find luxury shopping districts filled with designer brands, gleaming skyscrapers, and high-end cars gliding down wide boulevards. Here, the wealthy enjoy a lifestyle that rivals the world's richest. Young professionals and entrepreneurs dine in exclusive restaurants, attend glamorous rooftop parties, and travel the world for leisure. For them, opportunity seems limitless and the future is bright. But just a few blocks away, millions of migrant workers live in a completely different reality. They crowd into cramped dormitories far from their families and board packed trains each morning to jobs that barely pay enough to get by. These workers build the cities, assemble the products, and keep the economy running. Yet, despite their hard work, they see little of the wealth they help create. Grueling hours, low pay, and constant exhaustion are their daily companions. This daily exposure to luxury they can't touch creates a deep sense of unfairness, a feeling of being forever on the outside looking in. The divide isn't just about money, it's about dignity, opportunity, and hope. If you're born into a wealthy family, your path is paved with gold. Private schools, international travel, and powerful connections open doors at every turn, making success almost inevitable. But if you come from a poor village, your journey is a steep, rocky climb with no clear map. Education is harder to access and opportunities are few and far between. Every step forward is a struggle. For many young people, the dream of changing their fate through hard work is fading. Instead, cynicism and frustration are growing as they watch the gap between rich and poor widen year after year. Extreme inequality doesn't just hurt individuals, it erodes trust, weakens communities, and threatens the very fabric of society. When people feel left behind, social cohesion begins to unravel. The government tries to manage these tensions with slogans about harmony and occasional crackdowns on corruption or excess. But these efforts often feel like surface-level fixes, unable to address the deeper issues. It's like trying to patch a massive cracked dam with a bit of tape. The pressures beneath the surface are immense, and the risk of a bigger rupture is always there. In the end, the gap between the haves and have-nots in China stands as a modern Great Wall, a towering barrier of inequality that shapes the lives and futures of millions. Chinese millennials and Gen Z face unimaginable pressure. They were told to study hard for a bright future, but the jobs aren't there. Youth unemployment is at record highs, leading to disillusionment. Movements like lying flat and let it rot are forms of quiet protest. Young people reject the hyper-competitive work culture. The government calls them lazy, but this generation is different. They grew up with the internet and see other ways to live. They question the definition of success pushed on them. This generational clash is a major threat to social stability. Let's talk about the social credit system, a sci-fi-like concept. The government keeps a score on every citizen, affecting their rights. The goal is a trustworthy society, but the reality is creepy. It's a patchwork of systems tracking financial, social, and political behavior. A low score can blacklist you from jobs and schools. It's a subtle form of control, encouraging self-censorship. People are afraid to say or do anything that might lower their score. This creates a society where everyone watches each other. It's a massive social experiment, blending big data with authoritarianism. The government's goal is the perfect citizen, obedient and productive. But what kind of society does that create? Trust or fear? China's one-child policy aimed to control population growth. It worked, but now China faces massive unintended consequences. The population is aging and shrinking, creating a demographic time bomb. One child may have to support 2 parents and 4 grandparents. The one-child policy rewired family structures, creating little emperors. There's a severe gender imbalance with more men than women. The government now encourages more births, but young people aren't interested. The cost of raising a child is astronomical and social values have changed. After decades of discouraging children, it's hard to convince people otherwise. China's urbanization is the largest human migration in history. Cities are symbols of success, but migration created a 2-tiered society. The hukou system ties citizens to their birthplace, creating second-class citizens. Migrant workers can't access city services, separating families. Left-behind children suffer emotional problems while workers live in shadows. The hukou system perpetuates the urban-rural gap. The government talks of reform, but city governments resist. The division remains a deep crack in China's social structure. China is a tech innovator with technology woven into daily life. The digital revolution drives growth and convenience, but has a catch. The same tech that offers convenience also enables surveillance. WeChat is a powerful tool for both communication and control. The line between state and tech companies is blurry, creating data collection. This chills free expression with censorship within Chinese apps. Technology empowers, but also maintains state control. It's a trade-off, convenience for privacy and freedom. As frustrations rise, people may question this bargain. Is China's society unraveling? It's not that simple. China is a complex machine with warning lights flashing. The government has control tools and national pride, but faces challenges. The social contract of prosperity for obedience is breaking down. Economic slowdown, youth disillusionment and inequality are deep cracks. The government can patch these with temporary fixes, but not long-term solutions. The future is a tension between state control and societal frustrations. The outcome isn't pre-written. It could lead to more repression or reforms. A socially unstable China would have global ripple effects. We should watch with a critical eye, avoiding fear-mongering and naive optimism. China's story is one of achievement, problems and uncertainty, and it's far from over.